Hello, and thanks for stopping by. Continuing on with the airline radio. Uh, First, something I forgot to show in the first video that I think is important, at least it was important to me when I got it. You see so many videos anymore of people complaining about the way the radios are being shipped and, receiving them in damaged conditions because they've been packed wrong. Uh, this one was packed right, and I just wanted to show you. I even sent email to the seller complimenting on the way he did it. This was the box I received. You can see I received it in very good shape. He's got fragile stickers all over it, and the post office actually seemed to take care of this one. When I opened the top, the first thing I saw was a sheet of styrofoam, uh, approximately 3/8 of an inch thick type thing. And taking that off, I didn't take a picture of it, but it was underneath that. It was packed tightly with packing peanuts. And if you look at the box here, you can see that same 3/8 styrofoam on all the sides, and it was on the bottom too. So what he did, he put a sheet on the bottom, put a bunch of peanuts on it, set the radio in the bubble wrap down on it, put wedges of the 3/8 styrofoam on the sides to keep it from shifting back and forth, more packing peanuts on top till it was tight, and then sealed it up. And so when I finally got it out here with the, you can see with the bubble wrap on it, it was like 2 layers of bubble wrap around it. I mean, the radio was solid. There was no shaking to the box whatsoever. I mean, it was an excellent, excellent job. And I wish everybody would, take and pack things like that. Now, continuing on, in this case, we had a working radio, as you heard in the first section. And now I know we're going to take and change all the capacitors, the paper capacitors in it or whatever, but I wanted to check the resistors. Now, in a lot of manuals and the SAMS manuals, you'll find a resistance chart like this, and it can be tempting to take and just pull the tubes and check these resistances to see how the resistors are doing in it. But I always take these with a grain of salt, and here's an excellent reason why. If you take and you look here for the 6K6 output tubes, it shows from pin 8, it shows on tube number 6 should be 250 ohms to ground, and on tube number 7 it should be 250K ohms to ground. Now if we look at the schematic for it, we can see that both pin 8s go through the same. Actually, it's a 270 ohm resistor to ground, so those resistors should be the same. So what I did with this, and what I like to do, is I like to measure each individual resistor. In this case here, it was relatively easy because there was nothing in parallel anywhere, so I could get accurate readings on all the resistors, and 99% of them are well within tolerance. Even the 10%ers are within tolerance. The only ones I took and found out of tolerance were the higher power ones, like this 270 watt. There's a 12.5K in the power supply and stuff like that. So I have those all ordered, and we'll replace them. Now, some points of interest as I was checking it: that 270 ohm resistor This is what I actually found there, and it all looks original. The solder, the solder looks original. I don't think it was touched. I think this is the way it came from the factory. Remember, this is 1946. You know, right after the war. So, you know, yes, there's some military surplus, but it may not be in the system yet, and so they're using up old parts. In this case here, they used a 1,000 ohm dog bone resistor and put a 470 ohm resistor across it to make it, you know, it measured like 312 ohms, you know, which is, and maybe originally it was closer to the 270, you know, when they took and shipped it from the factory. Another thing I took and found when I was going through it is there's a schematic calls for a 1500 ohm resistor in the plate circuit of the first RF tube when you're in the AM position. And what I found there is this: there was a 1200 ohm and a 100 ohm in series. And again, all the solder looks original. I think this is the way it came from the factory. Maybe that's as close as they had to the 1500 ohm, or maybe there was a running change down to 1300 ohm. I don't know. But this measures like 1390 ohms, so they're 20% resistors according to the schematic. So I'm going to take and leave them in there. Another curious thing I found, the power cord is bad. I'm going to have to replace it. And I was looking at the strain relief. And this is what the strain relief looks like. It's like two pieces of cardboard with the wire going through it at an angle, and it has a patent number written on the cardboard. So I pulled up the patent number, and this is the patent drawing for it. It, you know, very simple, especially in the production runs or whatever. Now this shows it being held in place with it looks like screws or whatever. The one in the radio is actually riveted, so I'm going to have to take and drill the rivet, at least on the one side, to get it loose where I can take and, you know, slip the old cord out and put the new one in. But there's a very simple design. You know, holds the cord in place, you know, for strain relief. And you never know what you're going to find when you're working on these old radios. Now, I have parts ordered for it, the paper capacitors and stuff like that, and I already took and started getting some parts. Now, one thing I'm going to have to take and do is work on the electrolytic. And this, you know, picture of the electrolytic, you know, standard, you know, can. This is one of the smaller diameter cans. And I've done lots of these, and they're really no problem. What I do, you can take an order. I get mine from DigiKey or whatever. But even for this, which is, these are 450 volt capacitors or whatever, you can take and get them in 8 millimeter and 10 millimeter diameters. So these are three. I think these are. I think these three are 8 millimeter. These three are 10 millimeter because they're 450 volt type thing. 210 microfarad, 122 microfarad. And as you can see here, they stack together and easily fit inside the can, and that way you can take and keep the original look. You know, I cut it carefully at the bottom here, tear it apart, drill holes, put the leads down through with a ground wire, and you know, then put it down in and run a bead of hot glue around the bottom to take and hold it in place. And they stay together fine. So hopefully in the next week or so, I'll be getting the capacitors, and we'll start working on that. and I'll take in video some of the work on that as it goes on. I also have another camera coming, thanks to Doug. He recommended it or whatever, and I have it coming. So hopefully I can take and start getting some clearer pictures and some clearer video, because that's been really frustrating to me that I cannot seem to get a good clear picture of almost anything. So we'll see how that goes. So anyway, thanks for stopping by. Hope everybody's doing okay, and have a good day.